to excuse me, I've just come out of the Star Trek movie. I've still got lens flare from all the exploding dilithium crystals. As you probably know, the new Star Trek movie reinvents the Star Trek franchise. And the good news is that it's actually really good fun. It's really enjoyable. It romps along. It completely puts to rest the memory of the first Star Trek movie all those years ago, Robert Wise's Star Trek film, which was incredibly ponderous and boring and tedious and took itself terribly seriously. Thought it was 2001. The new one is the work of J.J. Abrams, and everything zips along at a good old pace. Everyone's young, everyone's hunky, everyone's attractive, and everyone's having a particularly exciting time in space, which is good news. In fact, I was reminded of something that Gene Roddenberry, the original creator of Star Trek, once said. He was asked at a conference why it was that there weren't equal numbers of men and women on the Starship Enterprise. And he said, well, we were told by the studio that if we put equal numbers of men and women, everyone would think that they were all at it up there. And in the new movie, they kind of are. But here's what struck me most watching the new Star Trek movie. In it, they go back and reinvent the past and also the future. So we have a kind of Smallville origins of the characters. But due to a use of warp in the space-time continuum and some black hole, they effectively unwrite the whole of the future. So the franchise is now laid out as a clean slate before them. Very smart move. But in going back into the past, they resurrect the ghost of Captain Pike, who for me hangs like a great spectre over the whole of Star Trek. Now, Star Trek fans will know that originally, in the original pilot, the USS Enterprise was captained by Captain Pike, played by Jeffrey Hunter. For various reasons, Hunter didn't end up in the series, but he did turn up in a two-parter called The Menagerie, using footage from that original pilot. And I always liked Jeffrey Hunter, and I always had a bit of a problem with William Shatner, who I always thought was, let's face it, a bit of an arse. I mean, a lovable arse, but a bit of an arse. As a demonstration of his arseness, look at the Star Trek movie that Will Shatner directed, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. It begins Shatner behind the camera and in front of the camera, not perhaps at his physical peak, slightly trussed up, looking like he might have difficulty getting out of a bath chair, apparently climbing the face of El Capitan. Only somebody as massively confident as Bill Shatner could have placed themselves up a mountain and asked us to believe that they just climbed it. Later on, Bill Shatner's Captain Kirk, in the movie directed by Captain Kirk, goes to heaven where he meets and beats up God, who, after all, isn't any good with girls. Go for it, Bill. The second thing in the Hall of Infamy created by William Shatner is the death of Captain Kirk. Now, as you probably know, in the movies, Captain Kirk is finally killed by a character played by Malcolm McDowell. According to Malcolm McDowell, who's had his ups and downs in his career, I mean, Clockwork Orange, yay, Caligula, Evelenko, After killing Captain Kirk, played by William Shatner on screen, he received hate mail from real-life people, Trekkies and Trekkers, saying, how dare you kill Captain Kirk? Who are you? Who are you? You're just that bloke out of Clockwork Orange and Caligula. How dare you kill Bill Shatner? It's terrible. I'm handing in my membership of the Federation. People who clearly didn't know the difference between fiction and reality and who swarmed around the figure of Captain Kirk like flies. That would never have happened with Jeffrey Hunter, partly because he wasn't as likable, but also because he was far more spiky. In the new movie, we have Chris Pine playing Captain Kirk, and as always, he's the more boring of the central characters. We have Zachary Quinto playing Mr. Spock, who, as always, is the more interesting, but crucially, we have Bruce Greenwood as Captain Pike. And as before, I'm the guy who wants to see the movie in which Bruce Greenwood is in charge of the USS Enterprise. As for William Shatner, you know, he should just stick to pop records. After all, his version of Common People is better than Pulp's.